Okay, everybody, we're about to get started. My name is Christy Thompson. I am the Sales and Marketing Director here at BIS, and today we're going to be talking about how to set goals, run effective meetings, and make data your superpower. So I'm going to introduce you to our guests and our host for the webinar. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. We're going to keep everyone muted until the very end, and then we're going to open it up for questions, but feel free to submit questions throughout the presentation. So Phillip Long is our host. He is a technologist and entrepreneur who specializes in providing technology solutions and security consulting to businesses along the Gulf Coast. He is the owner of 5 businesses, and he is a certified information system security professional, the CISSP. And what's really neat about that is that designation is backed by the Department of Defense. He also has, I believe it's 500 plus clients from, we say Gulfport to Gulf Breeze, or 600 plus clients. And he's worked in the IT industry for over 20 years. So I'm going to go ahead and pass this off to Phillip.
All right, Christy, thank you so much, and I appreciate you guys attending. I know for the folks here in our local market, we've had a lot of people want the recording just because of the cleaning up from the debris, and I certainly hope everyone is staying safe out there. But I would like to introduce a really great guy. I'm really happy that we were able to get this done. This is Mark Abbott, and he is the visionary and founder of 90.io. And he's also a EOS, which stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System software builder and a implementer for that. He's invested in over 100 private companies. He coaches 75 senior leadership teams and serves on over 25 boards. He's also helped build and run Heller Financial Industry, which is a leading merchant banking platform. As well as he is a senior partner of a successful middle market oriented private equity firm. He is also the founder and CEO of a $450 million commercial financial company. So, Mark, I wonder how you get all that done, brother. You are quite impressive, and you're going to show us today.
Yeah, they're all. I'm not doing all those anymore, but that is the story of the past.
Gotcha. Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much and for jumping on. And really what we're going to do, and I'll be completely transparent here, this is a product that we found. I did not know Mark at the time. We had been the book Traction is all of that. And Mark, why don't you kind of just give us a little backstory of how you started 90 and kind of frame it up for everybody.
Sure, I'll do the 2-minute version of this. So the vision for 90 actually is about 15 years old. And as my resume there shows, I've been involved with a lot of companies, building, investing in them, coaching, sitting on boards. And I'm an older guy now, right? And so over the years, I started to see best practices that were out there. And not only did I see the best practices, but I started to really have a sense for the cascading of best practices, if you think about just building a toolkit and thinking about what's really important. So I started to actually 15 years ago write a book called Connecting the Dots, and then with the idea of also building out the software. One of the companies that I invested in was actually getting up and running on EOS. That's the book you were referring to, Traction. Mm-hmm. And so I read Traction, and I was like, you know what? Gino's written this book better than I would have. He's better at simplifying things than I am. And so I love that. And then I started to really explore what was going on with the EOS and the community, and just thought, this is a better idea to go in and join the community. It was a growing community. There's now almost 400 coaches around the world. And in addition, they didn't share my vision for the software. So it's like, cool, right? So joined the community about 8 years ago, launched the software 4 years ago, and now we have over 2,000 companies running on it.
Yeah, and it really is a great platform. And kind of what we do, just so you know, Mark, is we basically do a what we call a seminar or a lunch and learn, and we usually go out on site and we do one of those once a quarter, and then once a month we do some kind of a business builder type thing. So this is not something that we actually, this is just something we provide to the community because we find it very valuable and we want to help the local business community here. So that's kind of our platform that we're working from here.
Cool.
Okay, well, good. Let's jump in here. Let's talk about operations and the importance of operations. I know that something that was very unique to me whenever I first started I read Gino Wickman's book Traction, and I said, wow, I really understood that. I do have an operating system. It was not very good. It was, kind of broken in a lot of areas, but every business has an operating system. Why don't you kind of speak to us about that?
Yeah. So, look, we as humans have operating systems, right? And companies are just collections of humans. And, those operating systems really are comprised of what I like to say three things, right? So there's a bunch of insights that go into the way we look at the world. Then there are a bunch of tools we have. Words are tools, and then there are mental models or tools, and then their lenses are tools that we use, and then ultimately we start to embrace these insights and these tools in some form of discipline, right? And so ultimately we build these operating systems as humans, and then companies have the same things, right? And they include a bunch of different stuff, which I'm sure we'll get into. But the operating system, inherent in all operating systems, values. There's sort of things that you're interested. There's things you're not interested in, and then with EOS, ultimately there are 20 tools and disciplines that comprise this operating system that ultimately, when mastered, makes it genuinely a heck of a lot easier to just build a really, really strong company. And for me, a really strong company is a company that is productive, right? Because if it's not, it needs to grow in order to attract and retain talent. It's also got to be a place that you love working at. So it's got to be humane, and actually, where you feel like you genuinely fit in as a human being. And then ultimately, it also needs to be resilient, right? Because stuff happens, hurricanes and COVID-19 and lots of stuff happens. So ultimately, it's a really good system for helping companies become what I call extraordinarily productive, humane, and resilient.
Okay, great. Now, next we're going to kind of switch topics, but it's another big topic here about goal setting and setting targets and things of that nature. And the product 90.io really has a platform for that. Speak to me or to the audience about what you see as goal setting and the like the core fundamentals.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, I think it's Yogi Berra, right, that said, if you don't know where you're going, you're probably going to end up there. And as humans, ultimately, if we didn't focus on something, we'd get nothing done, right? Because you're totally distracted. So ultimately, there's a number of goals that we like to build up. And for us to get everybody in the company energized about pursuing. And the nice thing about it is you can make them really big picture, the long term, and then you need to make them a little more concrete as we get shorter term. So, a 10-year target is this idea of, where would we love to see our company in 10 short years? And, it's just, it could be, it could be very smart. We'll get into smart a bit later on, or it could be pretty big picture. We'd like to be one of the top companies in this particular industry, but it gives people a sense for what we're working toward. And then we go to the 3-year, which is, okay, so what does this mean? What are we going to look like in just 3 short years, right? And inside of that, you have this obvious things like revenue and profitability, and then maybe 1 or 2 or 3 key measurables that really define what success looks like. It could be number of products, it could be number of customers, it could be the level of diversification amongst your customers, it could be a host of things. And then we also love to have people put together a list of anywhere from 5 to 15 bullet points that just sort of paints this picture. You know, Aristotle once said the soul does not think without an image. And so you want to paint this picture of where you're going to be in 3 short years. It could be number of people, number of markets. You know, it's just another way of sort of creating this granular, detailed picture that just gets us all excited about where things are going, and it helps align the things that we're working on. After that, you go to 1 year. What are the goals that we really need to hit in the next year in order to make that 3-year picture come into reality? And then that's typically anywhere from 3 to 7 goals, plus the stuff we talk about, revenues and profits, and the 2 to 3 key measurables. And then finally, you know, okay, so we got the 1 year figured out. Now, what is it we're going to do these next 90 days? Right, in terms of making great traction, right, towards our goals. And just like in the goals, you know, we typically encourage people to have 3 to 7 what we call rocks. These are the things that we want to get done in the next 90 days. And if we do this really well, you know, there's a reason why we're called 90.io. It's because our software, we're all about helping companies and their teams and their individuals march 90 days together at a time, and for them to hit 90% of everything that matters, right? Because we're never going to hit all of our goals. In fact, if we hit all of our goals, we probably wouldn't be stretching ourselves. But if we can hit 90% of the things that matter, whether it's goals, whether it's measurables, we'll get into those a little bit later on. You know, if we're 90% strong in terms of our culture and our skills and just, you know, all the things that matter, then we're going to do great.
Yep. That's something really, whenever we began to, you know, kind of started on this journey, something that what came to me, and maybe I even read it in the book Traction. I don't know, you know, how everything kind of blends together, but
Yeah.
thinking about if you had everyone in the company, you know, setting a rock, you know, getting something done every 90 days. And say you got a company of, we got about 50 people employed. So that would be 50 per quarter. That's 200 major items being solved every year. And you march like that for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
That is an enormous amount of, you know, getting what we call the operational maturity level of your company, so that you're not always in the, you know, kind of in the fight or flight mode.
Yeah. And, you know, one of the things that I've learned over decades and decades of doing this kind of stuff is, I like to say I'm not a magician, right? And what I mean by that is I can't help people get what they don't want. Now, so that's a given. I cannot help people get what they don't want. So the question is, what do they want? And does what they want, does it line up well with what we want as a company? You know, 10 years from now, 3 years from now, 1 year from now, 90 days from now. And ultimately, if we can get that alignment, and then we have decent systems in place and tools in place and a decent sense of understanding, those are the insights, right? Then we can set this up so that they can see how we can help their wants align with our wants, so we can all get what we want.
Yeah. Yeah. And that talks about basically everyone having a number, that being a core fundamental of the, you know, of the EOS system, is everyone having a number. Let's talk about that a little bit as far as the, you know, what have you seen? I want to hear maybe some specifics that you've seen as far as, you know, the impact that people having a number put on them. And then I want to make a couple of comments about what I've seen within my own organization. Of course, you've worked with, you know, a lot of organizations in this way, and I've, you know, focused on one basically. So I'd like to hear what you've seen as the impact. What, you know, what's the outcome of assigning people a number?
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? I don't want to get thrown. We have a joke within the community. As I mentioned, there's 400 of us around the world, and we have a joke within the community about being pure, and that is that we're all sort of teaching the exact same thing. So when people that are running on EOS meet someone else who's running on EOS, we all have the same verbiage. And so I try really hard to be pure, but this is an area where I have a little issue with being pure. And what I mean here is that the notion that everybody has a number, I think, gets a little bit fuzzy for some people. They focus on a single number. I teach all my clients that I like to have at least 3 numbers. Everybody has at least 3 numbers, because if you just have one number, it tends to overemphasize something versus other things that are important. But when you get out to 3, 4, or 5, I find that we're much more capable of getting a balanced perspective on what's really important. So I'll unpack a little bit. So if you think of in a company, one of the things I focus on is teaching people how to structure their organizations, and every single layer of a company has a time span requirement associated with it. So the folks that are level 1, they're just focusing on doing, day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month work. And every single one of them, there's at least 4 numbers that are always available to us for us all to get on the same page. First of all, obviously, is attendance, right? So just showing up, consistently showing up, because we're depending upon you, is one number. The second number is every single seat within a company is doing something within an area where there's a process. And so just, doing a good job of following the process is another number. Almost all seats have some form of, quantitative aspect to them. So, responsible for producing a certain number of widgets, taking a number of calls, making sure a number of people are happy, etc. And then finally, every seat needs to be thinking about quality, right? And so right there's 4 numbers: attendance, following a process, doing well in terms of quantity, doing well in terms of quality. And so for me, everyone has several numbers. And then once we have those in place, the concepts in place, then it's just a question of, okay, when do we agree? At what level is there, if we have a measurement, let's just say attendance as an example, at what level do we agree there's probably an issue? Like if you can't show up at least 95% of the time, there's probably an issue. If you can't follow the process well 95% of the time, there's probably an issue. And so I love to have an agreement with the employee in terms of at what level do we both agree there's an issue, because I'd much rather have an agreement about what good looks like and what not so good looks like, so that when we get together, if there is an issue, it's like, hey, we agreed that this is a level where there's an issue, and so let's just talk about it. Is it me? Is it you? Is it the process? What can we do to either get us back above that number, or does that number no longer make sense for some reason?
Sure. And anecdotally, I agree 1,000% about a small set of numbers.
Yeah.
And then we really build upon. My grandfather once said, "If you watch the pennies, the dollars will come." And in that same kind of thought, what I try to do is have it to where basically individual numbers stack up into department numbers
Yeah.
that then stack up into company numbers.
Yeah.
And if you kind of get it down, and Patrick Lencioni said that if he could get everyone on the same page at rowing in the same direction, that he could dominate any market in any business climate out there. And I believe that, and this is a great way to do it. And even going one step above that, having each team have a set of numbers. And even we have a leadership team that has a set of numbers that each member has reports in. And the goal of that would be that if I was on an island, if I was down there where you are, just hanging out down in the Keys all the time, I'd be able to look at that scorecard
Yep.
and be able to know that the company's safe.
Yeah. The scorecard, yeah, exactly. Ultimately, and it's funny. I was telling someone the other day about, it takes a long time to build out a software product. It's never done. And one of the things that I've been wanting to do, the next big step, one of my big next steps in our software, was building the capability to have each of the team's measurables, right, we're talking about right now, for those to get rolled up and either averaged or summed, right? And then to get rolled up. So the individuals gets rolled up into the team, and the average or totaled as an example. The teams get rolled up into the department. The department obviously gets rolled up into the company. And at each level, those scorecards you're talking about has 5 to 15 numbers, and you can drill in and see, where the issues lie. And then once again, if we all have an agreement on what's an issue, the conversations are pretty straightforward.
Yes. Yeah, I really, that would be a great feature. And I'm going to talk to you about one other feature that you're close to, and I'll talk to you offline about it. That's really
Okay.
close. I think is essential. And again, we've been on the product since. Yeah. How long has it been launched, Mark? How long have you?
We launched it in April of 17.
Okay, so I can't remember, but Krista could tell me, but exactly when we've been on there. But we were an early adopter, and we've seen the product really blossom. It's a stand-up product. So
Thanks.
let's talk a little bit about rocks and
Yep.
understanding what a rock is, and then also some the SMART acronym there.
Yeah. So ultimately, one of the things that I still talk too much about almost, right, with my clients who've been around for years is really making rocks smart. And what that means is when we get to the end of the period and the rocks are supposed to be done or not done, if they're done, there's no question that what we all thought you said you were going to do got done. And so what's that mean? So it means that, the rocks were very specific. We were going to achieve, X, Y, and Z. X, Y, and Z was very measurable. There's no debate whether it was done. Obviously, in terms of achievable, it doesn't make sense to take on a rock that you can't achieve, because if you especially, I'll say this for leaders, if you force someone to take on something and they can't achieve it, that's just a big downer, right? It's a downer the entire way. And remember, we're talking about, we want productive, humane, and resilient organizations. And so we don't want to do that, right? We want agreements. We want agreement that, yeah, this can get done. This is achievable. Relevant, right? As human beings, we deeply want to matter, right? We want to matter in terms of what we're doing. We want to matter in terms of our tribes, right? We just fundamentally want to matter, because guess what? We are matter. We are made of matter, right? There's a reason we're made of matter. And so we want to matter. We want to know that what we're doing is relevant and it's consistent and it helps us achieve. We can say we were really a part of turning this getting these 90-day things done. We were really part of getting the goals done. We were really part of building this thing towards a 3-year vision. And then finally, timely by definition, right? And so what that means is, we said, hey, by the end of the year, we were going to get this thing done.
Yeah, I love it. And the good thing about, like helping people right now, I've just hired a new operations officer who we're grooming to be the integrator in our organization. And, he is going over rocks with the guys. And, I'm going to give just a quick SMART goal here for a rock. Let's just say I wanted to lose 20 pounds. So I would be very specific. I want to lose 20 pounds. That's achievable in 90 days. It's relative to my health, to my humanity, to the people around me, to my productivity, and then I want it done in 90 days. And that would be a SMART type goal, just for for our audience.
Yeah. And then the one other thing that I would add to this, Philip, is, we encourage our clients, and we have it's built into the technology to say, okay, so that's 90 days. Now, if you've ever seen the Tim Urban video on procrastination, if you haven't seen it, you should see it. I love it. I shared it at some point with all of my clients. But you know what? If we just set the goal and didn't have any milestones between here and there, we'd be like that classic college kid who's going to, wait until the day before to write the paper, or is going to wait until the day before the exam to do all the studying. And then, obviously the chances of things happening or not happening, the chances of happening go down, the chances of not happening go up. And so we like to intersperse between the day one and that very end. I like 3 to 5 milestones that says, hey, within a month, I'm going to lose 5 pounds. Because the first part, getting that discipline, right, is the toughest part. And then maybe after the second month, I will be up to 12 pounds. And then I've only got 8 pounds to go for the third month. Does that make some sense?
Sure, absolutely. And the cool thing about like achieving something, winning, is that all ships rise with the tide. And if you can get yourself in any area of your life to do better and to reach some goals and to get some things done, it's going to be easier to get things done. It's like a train, once the momentum's going, it can continue to go, but it's hard to get started.
Well, and part of the thing is this gets back to what you want, right? Because, if you don't know what you want, then it's tough for me to sit here and figure out if we can help you get what you want. But if you know what you want, and then these goals are going to help you get what you want, right? We're going to be able to talk about why they will help you get what you want. They'll give you some new skills and experiences, right? And ultimately, they're going to matter. They're going to be appreciated. So we're going to be able to celebrate this. You're going to get a nice dopamine release when it happens, and we're just putting you on a path towards sort of becoming that better and better version of your best version of yourself, of becoming of getting to the place that you want to get to. So goals are they're a core part of life, and they're a core part of work. And one of the things that I like to remind people is you can't self-actualize. If you really want to sort of become a better and better version, the best version of yourself, it is impossible to do it without work. So let's just do work we love doing, and make sure that we're making progress towards whatever it is we want. And goals are a part of that.
Cool. And one of the ways to, I think a fundamental part of a company is effective meetings. And one of the things that whenever we first began this, I had some resistance. And I want you to talk specifically, we can outline what a good meeting or a traction meeting looks like, but let's talk about how you overcome resistance, because some people, they have crappy meetings and they've always had crappy meetings, and because they didn't get anything out of it, therefore they saw no value in it. So
Yeah.
talk to me about how you transition a company who's like, half the people on the team are disengaged in the meeting, and how do you bring those guys in?
Yeah. Well, number of things to talk about. So first thing that I'll do when I'm coaching a team is I'm gonna tell them, hey, look, it's pretty normal for you as a team and all of your other teams to have a kind of as you put it, right, a crappy perspective towards meetings, because frankly, most companies don't do meetings well. They're a waste of time. There's a whole bunch of bad behavior associated with them. But worse, they're a waste of time. So number one, I get it. Number two, I will bet you money right now, real money, that within, I'll say, 5 to 8 weeks, you'll be loving these meetings. And you'll find that everybody else in your company, once you've been doing them for some period of time, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, not more than that, you will find they love these meetings, because these meetings are where we connect. They're where we celebrate. They're where we talk about issues we're dealing with. They make it easier for us to focus during the week, because if you run these meetings every single week, in the interim, right, during the week, if someone has an issue, you get to go, hey, if it's not urgent and it's not important, can it wait for our weekly meeting?
Yeah.
And so they just help us stay connected in a very healthy way. And as I said, in terms of everything, right? I mean, I can obviously walk through the agenda here and explain how this works, but they do become things people fight for. And ultimately, the core of the meeting is all about problem solving and just helping everybody get what they want.
Yeah, that's right. And this is basically the format that's here on the board. And I think it gets a rhythm. You get a meeting pulse going. You get a rhythm of what's going on, and people know what to expect, and they know, that. And it, I think that consistency, same time, same everything. But really, the heart of the meeting is going to be this next slide, which is identify, discuss, and solve, which I think is one of the reasons why meetings are not effective, is because people don't go through this process. I think they identify and they even discuss, but the part that fails is the solution.
Yeah, and there's a whole host of reasons for that, right? But if they may identify, but do they really identify, right? Do they really get to the core of the issue? And so one of the things we teach is this thing called who, what, and who, what, who won what. Had a moment there. So obviously, first thing first is who owns this issue, because we're just solving for that person, right? Second thing is, all right, so who do you have an issue with? And it's usually another member of your team. And if it's not a member of your team, if it's more of a bigger issue, then it's with either the integrator, if you have an integrator, or or the visionary / integrator. So that's the second who. And then one is get this issue down into one sentence. Is it a people issue? Is it a strategy issue? Is it a measurables issue? Is it a process issue? What is the real fundamental issue here? And then what do you need from us, right? Are you just, because this is one that frustrates the heck out of me. It's like, if you tell me you just need to vent, cool, right? Then I'm not going to sit here and try to figure out how to solve for you. If you just want us to be aware, cool, right? Are we all aware? Boom, we're done, right? On to the next one. Is it, you got 3 ideas, 3 solves, and you just want to know which of the 3 make the most sense? Tell us what you really want. Back to, can't help people if you don't know what they want.
Yeah.
And so we get that really clear right up front. And then what it keeps us from doing is wasting a lot of time solving for something that's not even the issue. So identify is really super important, number one. And then the discussion, there's some good best practices. We don't want people to say the same thing more than once, because it's either they're bullying or they're basically politicking. So that's uncool. So we set some rules up in terms of discussion. But then solve is, here's a solve, and we all agree to this, and 90% of the solves turn into to-do, so you're going to go do this, right? Yeah, we're all good. And then hopefully it doesn't come back, right? If we do a good job, it hopefully doesn't come back. And that's sort of classic who won what, and IDS.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And one of the things that that really stuck out to me whenever we started doing this is how often we get on what we call tangents.
Yeah.
And basically during the meeting, there's anybody can say it, but whenever you're getting off topic, we want somebody to stand up and say, tangent alert. Listen, we're not on topic. We're not following the. What was that? I wrote it down, but I didn't get it all. Who, what now?
Who won what? Who won what?
Okay, I'm gonna follow that. We don't do that.
That's a good one.
I'm gonna steal that from you.
You got it.
But yeah, but we always have somebody, and some people, they're almost trained in this, I think, to take you off topic, and they're going to try to, get you off topic where we keep staying. We got to bring it back, and the way we do it, and the way it's taught in the, in the traction book is tangent alert.
Yeah. And, because ultimately, remember, the first one is we're solving for, let's say, Philip, we're solving for you, right? And so, hey, Joe, this isn't your issue. This is Philip's issue. This is what it is. Love you. If you want to throw another issue up on the issue list, fantastic. Do you need that? Okay, let's put it down. And then let's get back to Philip's issue.
Yeah. That's right. And so let's talk about a little bit more about, like the effectiveness in meetings and the yearly and quarterly offsites. And I mean, there's a lot to that, but in a nutshell, what are you trying to accomplish in these specific meetings?
Yeah, so basically we're trying to get alignment. And ultimately what it is, as I mentioned earlier, as you showed right on that one slide, we got the 10-year, we got the 3-year, and then we have the 1 year, and then we have the 90. So what we teach is that we want to get every team ultimately, right? Because EOS mastery, and that's part of the superpower of the software, is it enables us to cascade this down, so everybody's participating in sort of the system, right? Everybody's in the operating system. So first things first is the senior leadership team, we want them to meet every 90 days. and for them to work on those quarterly, those 90-day goals, which we call rocks, right? And then so they do that. And obviously if it's early in the year, they're doing that to make sure that we're on track to hit our 1-year goals. Now, obviously every year we need to also, it's part of this 90 days, but one of those 90-day meetings is an annual. And it's during that meeting that we update our goal for the next year, right? We review how we did in the prior year. And then we update not just the 1-year goals, but we also take a look at our 3-year picture, and we now extend that out another year. So we're actually having my software company, we're having our annual on October 8th and 9th. And we will be changing our 3-year picture from 12/31/2022 to 2023. And we do those are 2-day sessions. We go off site and we work on a bunch of stuff that not just what I just described to you, updating the 3-year and the 1-year, and obviously setting new 90-day rocks. But we get together and work on trust and just increasing the strength of our team from a human perspective. And they're great. I love our annuals. I love my annuals for my team, and I love participating in my clients' annuals. They're always almost always, I can't think of an exception, right? They're almost always amazing couple days together.
Yeah, that is something that I really enjoy too, and I think it's important that you need to, we have basically a large building, and we can get off into an area that is all to ourselves, or we'll go off-site. I've even done them at my house, just because you want to get away from the email, get away from the phone, get away from somebody being able to bother you, so you can really focus and work on that, that top line strategy, and really, focus in on things that do, that come from that. And one thing, and I don't think it's really in the traction system, but is that we come back and we have a report. I know there's cascading messages where you can cascade it throughout the teams, and we use that after those meetings, so that, again, we're trying to keep everyone in alignment. And one of the problems, I'm a visionary, by the test as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking of I'm thinking I'm where I am in 3 years already. That's where my mind is.
Yeah.
And we're not there. And I need to be certain that I'm always going back to the team and telling them, look, guys, here's what's on my mind. Here's what's, these aren't actionable items. This is basically just information, so that you can kind of see the roadmap ahead, because that was something that I wish I would have learned early on, because I, in my mind, thought because I understood things in that way that everyone did, and that is certainly not the case.
No, and frankly, it's that's why one of the things I teach is how to structure the structuring and the time span responsibilities associated with each of these layers. The reality is you're going to be thinking as a visionary. You're thinking out 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And larger companies even further than that. And so what you want to do is then, the person below you, let's say this integrator that you're bringing on board, right? They're about helping the departments sort of stay with you, right? But not get overwhelmed by you in terms of being on a great path towards hitting that vision that you have. And so, yeah, it's the offsite is important, because we come back and we call them state of the companies, right? And we encourage our clients to have state of the companies after every one of these sessions, and just give people an update on how we did. One of the things about today that I love is, we've got a lot, I was saying insights earlier. We understand the sort of the art and science of not just company building, but of humans and tribes so much better than we ever had, right? I mean, you have the ability now to do some amazing research. And one of the areas where we've done amazing research is understanding trust. And especially group trust. And there's 2 components to trust. There's competency and there's character.
Yeah.
When it comes to
I know
character
you have a slide on that, don't you?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah, I don't have a slide on that one. I
okay?
don't think I do.
No, I don't think so. I thought it was the next one about the power of data, but alignment. Tell me what tools. I mean, we'll use the Enneagram. There's a thing called Grinder Finder
Yeah.
it talks about people as to their, I'm a guy, I see opportunity in absolutely everything.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And there's never anything that happens. I love like Marcus Aurelius and,
Yeah.
how the challenge is the way, and I'll embrace the challenge and just see it for, it's outside of my control. Therefore, all I can do is execute, and I'm going to try to find something that's going to be, positive and productive. A lot of people aren't that way. So there's a lot of tools. We use that, and we also use the DISC, dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance.
Yeah. Yeah. And, ultimately, right, it's about, as I said, the state of the company is about just having a great, healthy organization. And, and back to understanding trust, we've done a lot of research on it, not me, but, lots of others. And we know that, there's about 8 factors that really are the major levers in terms of establishing and maintaining trust. And, one of them is just being open about what's working and what's not working. You got, caring about people, investing, helping them grow, helping them get what they want, being authentic about what's working, what's not working. And so, the state of the company is part of the way we ultimately build a really healthy culture. And the healthy culture, it involves core values, but ultimately what it really involves is creating an environment where people just genuinely feel like they belong.
Yeah, and that leads me to my request of a feature request.
Yeah.
You're very close in that you have those feedback loops where you do the meetings with people on a quarterly basis. But
Mm-hmm.
what we have found is that a 30-minute biweekly, we call them sync ups,
Yeah.
and we answer 5 questions. I need that inside this product so that I could do a basic. We're modifying the annual review and using it to do a 30-minute sync up with we have teams of small teams, like a team lead, and they have no more than 7 or 8 people under them, and then once every other week they meet for 30 minutes and they answer 5 questions. And kind of it ends with what can I do to how are things going, what's going good, what's going bad. Let's look over your numbers, let's discuss them to see what challenges you're having in getting your goals, your rocks, your numbers, and then what can I do to help you. And I have found that from a relational standpoint is very important.
So it's already there, Philip. It's already there. All you got to do is go in and create a team for you and that person, right?
Yeah.
And go in and take the level 10 meeting, and you can edit it down. And if you want to have a list of 6 questions, you can actually insert them right in there. You can create a section to the meeting. So you can have the scorecard in there. You can have a check-in in there. You can have obviously the issues list, the to-do list, as well as you can have the list of things you want to go over. So
very cool.
Afterwards, if you want, you can follow up with me or my head of client success, but that already exists.
Great. That's awesome. I appreciate that. So
you got your money's worth.
Being a little selfish there, but I just find that, again, you're talking about that human element.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we spend a lot of time with people that we work with. And if you don't spend time, I always talk about relationships and building walls. And, if you don't meet with your people but once a year or whatever, and, there's a problem, it's like laying a row of bricks between the two of you. And then as before you know it, there's a wall between you, and it's insurmountable.
Yeah.
So you got to take it in bits and bytes so that you can keep in alignment.
I totally 1000% agree. I actually, I started, hate to date myself, but I became a manager in the 80s, right? And so, so I was pretty young when I became a manager, and and I think that it's really important that that we stay well connected. And from almost the very beginning of my career, I hated annual reviews. I thought they were so so unfair. And so even the US community and I have a little bit of a disconnect on this. I believe you have to have quarterly conversations. And then I believe unless you're really well synced up with someone, like you're talking about, Philip, I believe you should be having weekly one-on-ones as well.
Yeah. Weekly. Yeah, we do bi-weeklies.
Yeah.
We do
Or
stand-up
bi-weekly,
meetings.
right? Yep, that works too.
Yeah. So, well, cool. Let's talk a little bit about this the power of data. I've never seen this, so I'm really I don't know how you're measuring this. How are you measuring that graph you're showing there?
Yeah. So it's all in the software. So basically, here's the big idea, and this is where we're going with 90. If you think about, we were talking about this a little bit earlier. Every single individual should have 3, 4, 5. Sometimes it could be 6, 7, 8, but hopefully not big numbers like that. But certainly 3 to 5 measurables, right? And then they're participating in meetings. And by the way, I call these agreements. So your roles and responsibilities, those are an agreement, right? We agree this is what the seat's all about. And we agree that this is something you really want to do, right? You want to be in the seat. You want to succeed in the seat. So if you don't, let's talk about it because I can't help you get what you want, right? And so at the core of all this, I call this agreement-based leadership. And agreements are obviously the roles and responsibilities, right? Agreements are our culture. Agreements are to-dos. Agreements are measurables, right? The target below which we both agree there's an issue, right? Agreements are what does good leadership and management look like? Agreements are, what are our core values and what's our bar for people in terms of being right people, right seat. We do surveys every quarter to say how are we doing in terms of strengthening the 6 key components of the business. And all this data is in the system, and you can literally see this data at a company level, at a senior leadership team level, at a department level, at a team level, and down to an individual level. The to-dos as an example, and the measurables and the rocks are literally incorporated into our feedback software. So the rocks right now, the measurables and the to-dos, you'll be seeing the graphics come out in the next month or so. So when we sit down and have a quarterly conversation, right, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to have this graphic, that to-dos that were done on time, to-dos that weren't done on time, to-dos that were done on time, right? Have a graphic in terms of your measurables, and literally it's a really cool graphic. It shows the last 13 weeks and basically red, green, or yellow every single week for every single measurable. It's just a picture. The picture tells 1,000, picture tells 1,000 stories, right?
1,000%. I love it. I've noticed that being measured. I just had not seen this. Can you do this on a team as well as an individual?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And then we're coming out with a new tool called Dash, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with. It's in beta right now, but it's going to go live in a couple of weeks. And it's a dashboard which is going to give you these types of graphics. And you can get, and in Dash is, in my opinion, it's a super tool because not only does what we're showing you here, and you can show it attributed and non-attributed, but you can literally have the dashboard hooked up on a monitor, and you can slide not just measurables and charts and graphs, but literally you can set it up so that it'll slide a picture of your core values. It'll slide pictures from your people directory. It'll slide quotes from, you talked about Marcus Aurelius earlier, right? It can slide some quotes that you find inspirational. It can slide the accountability chart, because what tends to happen is that, we like to say that it takes at least 7 times for people to hear things before they really get it. And so, we're just letting people share, right? Back to trust, being open, and celebrating, right? Caring about people, letting people, and putting corporate calendars up and putting pictures from events up and things like that. And just Dash is here to help improve the productivity, humanity, and resiliency of the organization.
I love it. We use we use Bright Gauge for that. But yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is really, really, really awesome. That right there is going to be a game changer. I knew that there had to be some reason, because it would be difficult to, you could look at all the gauges, but having it put into that graphic right there would be absolutely amazing for that. So I love that.
Cool.
All right, let's talk about taking EOS to your teams with 90. Let's talk a little bit about that from your perspective, because I know that you had agreed that you were going to, we have an offer that you're going to do for these guys. And I mean, again, I'm not getting a kickback or anything else. I want to help local businesses really do awesome. And I would even let them come in and sit in on one of our 90 meetings just to kind of get a feel for it and let them view the tool. Because I think that, my goal here is to help people and to help businesses, thrive. That's, one of our niches, and keep them secure and help them grow. So tell me a little bit about this.
Yeah, so 90 is just it's an ever-growing collection of business building and awareness tools. It just makes it almost easy. So that's one of our little taglines. For creating extraordinarily productive, humane, and resilient organizations. You were talking about Lencioni's quote earlier. The truth is, it's really not as difficult to build a great company as most people believe. Number one, it's discipline, right? And it's focus, and it's not trying to do a bunch of different things. It's just, becoming really clear about a bunch of things, who you are core value wise, where you want to go, why you exist as a company, your ideal clients, your value proposition, those things. And then it's just execution, right? And so, and the reality is, if you remember from this prior slide, first of all, let's just get agreement on things that matter. And then let's just make sure we have really, humane systems of accountability, right? Which is, like I said, they're agreements. We're not forcing anything on anybody. These are the agreements below which we agree these are the levels, as an example, and a measurable below which we agree there's an issue. And then there's the accountability. And then, it's all good and dandy, but if we're not aware of the stuff, then it kind of goes for naught. So, our system is built to help people just see what's working, what's not working, to provide discipline around meetings, to provide discipline around giving feedback every quarter, to provide discipline around getting agreements. And ultimately, our you're getting me on a pedestal right now, lecturing. Our clients made it through COVID, or making it through COVID, extraordinarily well. And because, first of all, the software is built so that you can run a company from anywhere, right? And so work from anywhere works just as well. If you're running on 90, our clients all, broke apart as far as being together, but they stayed connected, held the meetings, etc., doing things like we're doing right now on Zoom. And so, we've had very little churn in our client base. And all my clients they're taking market share right now because they're strong and they're focused and they know what they stand for and they appreciate one another. Actually, I find my clients appreciate each other. They used to have, I think, pretty healthy cultures and they were healthy teams, but I think they love each other even more now than they did before COVID.
Yeah. And, I follow, I'm a part of IT Nation, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with Paul Dipple. Do you know him?
Yeah.
He's a guy that, for managed service providers, which is basically what we are, he collects numbers and does consulting work. But like, we compare our books to everyone else's books, like several thousand different managed service providers. And what he always shows is that, and he breaks it down, I mean, very granularly, but a great company is going to be able to gain clients at a much lower rate than a bad company, or less than great company. He breaks them down into quartiles, and he does a lot of data, a lot of those pictures tell a thousand word kind of stuff. And having that's what I like about Traction, and what I like about 90. It's a recipe. And if you can read and follow instructions, you're going to be successful. And if you'll commit, it's what did you say? It was kind of easy, or somewhat easy?
Almost easy.
Almost easy. Yeah, it's almost easy. Again, you've got the map. All you got to do is be diligent enough to get up and walk that day. And that's the beauty of it. And it's really cool. I got a couple of questions. One I'm gonna answer, and one you're gonna answer, because I want you to go into it a little bit deeper for me even. But what is IDS? And that stands for identify, discuss, and solve. It is a very structured format that, and then the next question was, what was who won what? Explain that just a little more granularly. This would be a tool to help identify an issue, but
Yeah.
explain that for me, Mark.
Yeah. So who are we solving the issue for? That's the first who. The second who is, all right, who do you have an issue with? Could be, if you're heading sales, maybe it's marketing, right? Maybe it's operations, maybe it's finance. They're not giving you decent terms to bring your, clients on board, whatever it is, right? If it's none of those, if it's none of the department heads, presuming you're at the senior leadership team level at this particular moment, it's with the integrator or with the the head of the company, because it involves more than just one department. So first things, we want to get clear on who, and in our software literally it shows who owns the issue, and you can write down who you have an issue with. Then it's what's one sentence? Give us the essence of this issue. Break it down into one sentence. And you know what? If you have to sit there and think about it for 20 seconds in order to be able to say it well, that's cool, right? Because it's going to save us a heck of a lot of time. So what is the issue in one sentence? And then what do you need, right? Do you need us to solve? Do you need us to be aware? Do you need us to let you know whether or not we think your idea, you've got a good solution, just sign off on it? Do you see 3 solves and you're not sure about which one's the best solve? Just tell us what you need so we can be really focused in terms of this conversation.
Yep, that's right. And you're right, it is. It's right there. We're doing it all the time, because whenever you put in that issue, that it pretty much, it walks you through that exact format. So I do know what that means.
Yeah.
I just hadn't heard it said like that. So, all right, well, we're getting close to the end of time here, and I'm going to go through we offer anybody who's joined our webinar. One of the big things that we're seeing is big uptick with cybersecurity threats right now, and we're offering what we call a free cybersecurity starter pack. And for anybody on the webinar, that's going to be a dark web scan with simulated phishing emails for your company, as well as online cybersecurity training for all your employees. And you don't have to be a client of ours. We're also going to do a network evaluation and a Microsoft 365 security review. We added that because, quite frankly, I have gained 3 new clients in the past month because of business email compromise. They get Microsoft Office 365 and they're not doing the security settings on the back, and they're basically getting hacked and they're being taken advantage of. And it's something that you really need to look at if you're running Microsoft Office 365. The tools are actually there, but they're just not turned on. And we'll give you a quick one-page technology roadmap on our presentation. And normally we charge $279 for that, but it's free. And then, but really for the main offer here, and this, I think, I guess I always say part of winning's not losing. So I always think security first, because, that could really ruin your company. But this right here, what you're going to offer, Mark, you go ahead and tell us about this offer.
Yeah. So normally we let people come in and bang around on the software and go in there and do that for 30 days. Honestly, we also, we're helpful. So people have a bunch of stuff they want to load in there. Oftentimes, we'll do that. But what we're doing here is giving people twice the length. And absolutely, whatever you need, if you've got a bunch of stuff that you want loaded in there, historical data, if you got processes you want loaded in there, obviously the scorecards, your people directory, will load that in there and populate your accountability chart for you. So, so just here to help people get up and running on 90. So building their companies, building a great company is what, guys? Almost easy.
Yeah. And I think one thing we didn't mention that I thought was really a game changer from a dynamic of, a lot of times you see organization charts and you think of it as the old school top down, where really whenever you set up that accountability chart, it clarifies things by who is responsible for what. And it really helps that, that who what kind of conversation, as well as who's going to solve the problem, because you define who is responsible for what. And that's kind of one of the first things that you do whenever you're following the traction model and when you set up the system.
Yep.
So that's really great. And you guys are over 2,000 companies now, huh?
Yeah.
That's really cool. And again, for our our folks here in this local market, y'all are welcome to schedule a time to come in, and I'll give you let you sit in on one of our meetings. We try to be really transparent. Of course, if we had anything private, we take it in kind of we wouldn't deal with it at that time. But if you wanted to see this product run, but I really highly encourage it, because I've been doing this 20 years in this local market, and I've seen some clients that really would benefit from this. And that's why, Mark, I want to thank you for coming on. I know you're a busy guy, and I really do appreciate it. And I think that your software will make a big difference in the company's life.
My pleasure. We're always here to help.
Yep. And to get that, all you have to do is send an email to events@askbis.com, and we will properly follow up and do all that. So I don't know, Christy, I see a couple questions. I think we've answered them. We're right at 2:00. I like to be, on time. Is there anything that I need to do? Did I miss anything?
There was just one about I believe it's one-on-ones.
Okay. A one-on-one is basically where a direct report, and Mark, you may add to this, but I mean, for us, it's where a direct report would meet with their team lead or manager, whatever term you use. And I think it's just extremely important for that to happen. A lot of people say it's a waste of time, but it's really not. We do very quick meetings. They're held to a very strict 30 minutes. And, we're syncing up, basically. We call them one-on-one sync ups, where, again, if there's a problem, if there's something, I give people the opportunity to discuss that with me. And I want that done throughout the entire organization, because I don't want people damaging the humanity aspect of our company, is what I call it, where you have a grudge or you're not in sync with one another. So that's what we do. And Mark, you may want to add to that.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. Like I said earlier, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly, every other week, just making sure, especially, if you can't read one another's minds, right? Once you get to the point where you're mind reading each other and you're so synced up, it may not be important. But, if you're not there yet, just touching base one-on-one outside of the weekly meeting for the team is hugely helpful in terms of building that trust. And ultimately, I think we're moving from the age of sort of managing people to coaching people.
Yes.
And so, imagine, getting to the point where everybody who works for you literally would be willing to pay for you to be their coach if they left the company. That's the kind of relationship you want with your people.
That's beautiful. I love that. Are you familiar with Ray Dalio?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
My chief of staff was the chief of staff at Bridgewater. So yeah, I'm very familiar with
yeah. Well, you know how he talks about meritocracy, where ultimately you have a group of people. This is my ultimate goal for running a business, where I've got a group of people who are really equals, and they are very skilled at their responsibilities. They're very, talented, skilled. They communicate well together. They work well together, and everybody has a job, and everyone's suited for that job, and we just get a lot done, and we change the world. That is, to me, the ultimate goal of running a business.
Yeah, agreed.
So, okay. Well, listen, everyone, thank you so much. And for those that are on the call that were not able to get on the call, I had a lot of people come in and say they couldn't, but they wanted the recording. All of the offers are stand for you guys as well. And Mark, I want to thank you so much for joining us, and I do appreciate it, as well as Christy and her team for kind of putting all this together.
My pleasure. Thanks for including me.
All right, guys. Y'all have a great afternoon, and stay safe out there.
Thanks, everyone.